Cinema Worms.
Discussing everything from Grima Wormtongue to the Shy Halib.
Okay, so we are coming in with a solo video episode with me, Zabib, for Cinema Worms, and I'm excited to discuss a really interesting film festival I went to in Edinburgh. It's brand new and it is so innovative and important and exciting. So Jolly Collective is a new grassroots collective in Edinburgh, Scotland, whose purpose is to widen access to African cinema and to celebrate and elevate Black, African, and diasporic stories through film and culture. So it was a 4-day event of film screenings, festivals, workshops. So I got to see 3 films, experience like nothing I had ever been a part of. Getting to be in the film house, first of all, yay, film house reopened, and to be around so many Black creators and film lovers. Generally in the Western world, the recognition of and celebration of Black cinema, but particularly African cinema, is just not present in the conversation. Of course, African cinema does not need to be recognized by the Western or European world to be legitimate or to be innovative, right? It's not just because film festivals like this are happening that suddenly we should be talking about African cinema. We should be watching cinema all over the world. I got to see 3 films as part of this amazing weekend. Memory of Princess Mumbi, and then Promised Sky. So those were the 2 sort of feature films, and then documentary Amakki. The opening film, the closing film, and then a film that I selected because of the time slot. It was convenient, and I had no idea that it was actually based in a region close to where I'm from. So let's start with Memory of Princess Mumbi, which is, there's so much I could say about this film, and I really wish I could have talked with others afterwards just about all the different facets of this film and controversies and innovations. So it's directed by Damien Hauser, who is a Swiss and Kenyan filmmaker who is, I think, not even in his mid-20s, and this is like his 3rd feature film. So in Memory of Princess Mumbi, he's depicting this futuristic Swahili kingdom following this young director in 100 years' time. Well, actually, no, that is not 100 years from now. If it's 2093, oh gosh, time flies. That should be about 70 years from now. But it feels like it's very far away. It's this completely different, slightly dystopic, trippy future where there has been a world war that's shaken the world. Technology has kind of been outlawed. Ancient kingdoms have come back, but technology is still present in this interesting meld of things becoming more organic, but also AI being a large part of how people understand media. And he's filmed everything in Kenya. So you're following this character of Kuve, and he comes to this remote village of Umata to document the aftermath of the war. He connects with this young woman called Mumbi, and she is a local filmmaker who challenges him throughout the film to see what they're doing in a different way, right? To try to be more organic in the stories they're telling, to be authentic, and to actually use AI less. But the caveat is, what's so interesting about this film is that it was created in part, or part of its visuals and backgrounds and effects were created with AI in combination with special effects. So, controversy. So let's start, before talking about the AI, let's just say I found this film very compelling just from the visual language from the very beginning. It's depicting like African people and life, like Kenyan people, against this. It reminded me a lot of the visuals of the film The Creator, if any of you have seen that, which wasn't made with AI, but also had a much larger budget, obviously, as a studio film. So those visuals, there was also that South African robot film. I'm blanking on the name right now, but Chappie Neil Baumkamp, 2015. It gives that sort of, it's not steampunky, but that organic future technology. The word I'm looking for is Afrofuturism. Afrofuturism. Also, shout out to this Janelle Monáe album, Dirty Computer. I listened to that ish so many times when it came out. Metal mixed with like earth. It's very rich, the visual language of this film. It is eye popping. It is fast moving. It's almost like found footage in a way. It's a sense of like a documentary that is fictionalized and has these futuristic backgrounds, and it's set in Africa, and it was really exciting. That's all I can say, is that it was a really exciting film from the very first frames. You have the narrator, who is the main character, setting up the lore of this world that clearly the filmmaker has richly imagined, and it feels very unique, at least for things I've seen. I reviewed a film a few years ago. Da 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 da. I reviewed a film a few years ago for a website when I was writing on Spectrum Culture, and there were a couple of films actually that reminded me of this one that were more indie films. Neptune Frost is another Afro-futurist film that has a very distinct, exciting visual language. There were the filmmakers who made Something in the Dirt, Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. The filmmaker on a low budget creating something dystopic and thrilling and completely original. Of this film, only one of them, Mumbi, was apparently a professional actor. I mean, you could sort of tell. She brought a lot of soul to the part. It has an almost fairy tale aspect to the film, and documentary and yet fairy tale, because you have these two, the filmmaker and this actress falling in love, and the trials and tribulations as they struggle through their journey. How she is courted by a prince who is actually destined to marry her. And yeah, it was an exciting watch, a bit long. But speaking to the AI element, I think that's where things get really tricky, because this film would not exist in its current form without the use of AI in those backgrounds. These towering piles of houses and the remnants of a futuristic world that then crumbled under this war. That is so much clearly of what excited this young filmmaker. Clearly, tons of dedication and work has gone into this film. And this is not a filmmaker who's going to be getting a big budget, right, to be able to create special effects of this caliber. And also, the film itself is interrogating AI and the use of AI, and it becomes very meta. So you have these sequences where it's saying this part is recreated by AI, and it's a scene of something that happened. It's almost like he's reliving the romance with this, or sort of telling the romance of him and Mumbi, but also recreating scenes of it in AI. There's this weird blending of and labeling of AI and meta discussions within the film of, oh, but like, don't change the actors' faces with AI. Why don't we have it be organic and be a real performance? And discussing the morality of the use of AI. I think ultimately the ethical questions are really exciting and interesting, and I would say it doesn't quite sit well, the use of AI in the film, because it doesn't work that you can comment on AI's ethical use and the restrictions and how to use it responsibly, and use it that heavily in crafting the visual language of the film. And it's not actually labeled in every scene. The filmmaker is open about the uses of AI for the backgrounds and sequences, but I think there's a way in which the film could have been made without necessarily having to have those epic scenes So I'm really torn because it's not like there are people losing out on jobs through this very, small budget film. But to me, it doesn't feel quite right. I think there's a different perspective on AI from the filmmaker here that doesn't sit well with me. But I do like the questions it raises. And I think it introduces vital questions that we're not asking ourselves about, well, if AI is going to come into filmmaking, in what context and how is it going to be ethically used? I don't know if it can be. The thing is that it was a bit disappointing because I was so excited by the film while watching it. And it is a worthwhile film that should exist. I would love to see a version of this kind of filmmaking that just embraces that, you can't create that epic, cool landscape because it's AI creating it, so it's tinged with wrongness. But I love what this filmmaker is doing. I still encourage people to see it. I love that it was chosen for a Jolly Film Festival, and I actually found it very exciting and brilliant storytelling from this young creator who worked tirelessly for apparently years to edit it and put it together. So that, hence why the disappointment around the AI, but also excitement around the questions that he raises. So I'll move on from this one and I'll talk about Amakki, which was a real surprise in the middle of the festival that I saw. It is a documentary about this, I guess let's call them matriarchal family in the remote villages of Ethiopia. Apparently, this also another really young filmmaker set out to make a film about coffee farmers and then ended up focusing on this family of women because they were so captivating. So you have the still fairly young grandmother, her adult daughter, and her young 2-year-old adorable baby daughter, and then a sort of like 10, 12-year-old cousin they've taken in. And it's a really, and I'll try to say everyone's names. So you have the filmmaker who is French Algerian. And I actually got to meet her after the screening. She was lovely, young, brilliant documentarian. Her name is Celia Bossabe. And yeah, basically she lived with this family and got to know them and had a translator there and just be kind of ingrained herself in their life. And it's not like any documentary I've seen that there's no explanation given by some narrator. It's these sequences of observation, of deep intimacy with the baby daughter, with her mother, with the grandmother, with the young girl. You're just following them around their home, around their village, the children playing, and then later the women struggling with patriarchal expectations, religion, cultural expectations, because they both the adult daughter and the grandmother have left their husbands and being judged by the village, but also people in the village looking up to them. It's fascinating. I found just being able to sit with these women and their complexity and their perseverance and their independence was really captivating. The baby daughter is so cute, and to see so much vibrancy in a 2-year-old that we're just like watching for extended sequences play in the dirt and respond to the environment in this only in the way a child could. It was just beautiful. It's lovely, and you feel yourself almost like catching some of that feeling the filmmaker must have had as she grew close to the family. You feel like you've grown close to them by the end. Finally, we're going to be talking about Promised Sky, which was the closing night film of the film festival. The film opened the Un Certain Regard section of Cannes Film Festival this year. Promised Sky follows 3 women in modern day Tunisia. You have a less young, but still young filmmaker. This is her third feature. Tells these intimate stories of people in Tunisia, and it's very captivating. So the film was directed by Erig Sahiri. She's French Tunisian. She co-wrote the screenplay with some other writers. So it's like this international co-production, and it stars Aissa Magai as Mary, Letitia Kai as Jolie, and Deborah Lobi Nani as Nani, Estelle Dogba as Kenza. So mainly you're following Marie, Nanny, and Jolie. So these are three women who live together. They're immigrants from sub-Saharan Africa. They're from Ivory Coast. And I can't remember exactly where the other two were from. And they've immigrated to Tunisia, and they have varying immigration statuses. And we are just following them for several weeks of their life as they navigate an oppressive, toxic, xenophobic, racist immigration system and increasingly hostile view of immigration in Tunisia, as they try to pursue their personal goals and struggles. And it's a very naturalistic film and very, very authentic. It's not dramatized. It's not poverty porn. It's not simply focusing on the suffering of Black women. It's depicting them in their full humanity. Well, visually, it's gorgeous. It's just the colors of Tunisia, the textures, the blues of the sky and the sea. A gorgeous film. The main point of conflict in the film is that they've taken in this young girl who survived a boat where a lot of migrants drowned. So they take in this girl and they don't know what to do, because if they hand her into the immigration system, will she be lost in a way that is harmful to her? What do? Do they hide her? The police are rounding up immigrants even if they have legal status, and it's a scary time. And it reminded me so much to what's happening in America. It was disturbing to watch. It's in a completely different country and environment, Tunisia, but it was that same toxicity and xenophobia and sense of we are not safe. It doesn't matter what status we have. We are not safe as Black women here. We are not safe as people deemed as outsiders, even as we try our best to navigate our lives here. Each of the portraits of the three women, very authentic. You're seeing them react to this situation in their own unique ways. The matriarch, Mary, played by actress Aissa Magai, she's a leader in her community. She's a pastor. She's got so much dignity and empathy, but also toughness. There's the student, Kenza. She's more defiant. She's brash. She wants to be independent. She just wants to be a student living her life in Tunisia and doesn't want to have to deal with all of this crap. And then we have the character of Nani, who is more brash and reckless and living on the margins than the other two. She's left a son back home who she hasn't seen in 3 years. She's struggling to get by. She's clearly endured trauma that we don't know about. She seems to be making reckless choices, but she's just trying to survive, and she has so much ambition. Her character is a tragic one. So it's a compelling film, and you feel the pressure ratcheting up throughout. You enjoy seeing the tensions between the women themselves, how they navigate their environment. This is kind of slice of life story that I found moving and contemplative at the same time. And I loved all three of these films, and particularly I'm excited to write about Promised Sky for a film review in Writer's Mosaic, so you can look out for that more extended review of the film. Thank you so much.